and China have been one such neighbor who is trying to take the advantage of the current geopolitical crisis that has been created by the tariff structures introduced by American President Donald Trump. But here, in today's video, we are going to analyze how far is it possible to resolve the issues between one of the unnatural partners, that's India and China, without resolving one of the primary issues, that's the border clashes. Hello and welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to deal with India-China relations, trying to improve or normalization of ties without focusing on the border clashes. And why are we discussing this? Is because there are hopes, there are discussions by the foreign ministers of China visiting India and stating that they will be restarting the bilateral ties. There is also a significant development in the air connectivity, given the fact that there were some of the most biggest dent in India-China relationship because of the Galwan clashes that took place during COVID-19, and of course the Operation Sindoor, in which India precariously or very evidently saw China's presence or China's influence to the Pakistani forces. But before we delve into these discussions with respect to the hopes, the positives as well as the negatives in new normalization of ties between India and China, we have an important update to make that Legacy IAS Academy is starting up with their new batches in the month of September as well as October. In this month of September, we are starting up with our new weekdays batch on 22nd of September and 16th of October. And the weekend batch will be starting from 4th as well as 25th of October. So please do not wait, and you can click on the link that is mentioned in the description box below, or scan the QR code, or dial on the number 96069 Now, starting with our discussion that can India and China normalize our relationship without delving into the border clashes? Now, there has been one such incident where our former Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, tried to normalize India and China issues. And one by one, the first step that he proposed was resolving the border issues. But we very well know that China is reluctant in resolving the border issues. That is largely because its territorial occupancy, or the way China has tried to occupy the territories of its neighbor, follows a similar pattern, and that is what we call as the salami slicing technique of China. Now, what is salami slicing? Salami slicing says that layer by layer, area by area, small territories China tries to occupy from its neighbors. So was the case with Tibet or Xinjiang or even India. In fact, China has border issues even with Russia, which is one of its closest partner. So given this fact, China has never been very clear about this fact that they have to resolve border issues with their neighbors. In fact, when Rajiv Gandhi tried to propose or improve normalized ties with China, there were improvements in all other sectors other than the border issues. But, of course, as we discussed, that given the current geopolitical crisis that has been created by Donald Trump by introducing new tariff structures for countries worldwide, India and China are trying to take advantage of it and trying to resolve the issues between themselves. In this case, 2024 May, India and China had signed an important agreement called the Border Patrolling Agreement. And as per the Border Patrolling Agreement, both India and China will take chances to take or do the patrolling of the LAC area, close to the LAC area. Amongst which, there were so many territories which were disputed, and we have been able to resolve, that is, both the countries should be sending their patrolling troops time to time or one by one, except and including the Depsang as well as Demchok area. So this is the Depsang Plains close to the Galwan Valley, and this is the Demchok area. So as per the border patrol agreement signed between India and China, both the countries will be able to take chances to carry out patrolling in this area, and that is a very important positive initiative, positive development in normalization of ties, especially in the issues of the border dispute. But if we talk about the stages of normalcy, we expect this normalization of ties to take place in 4 stages. The first stage is, of course, the diplomatic and economic relations, that we need to improve bilateral relations. पहले इंडिया और चाइना आपस के issues को resolve करें, ठीक है? So for this, India and China has carried out resumption of flights and religious pilgrimage, people-to-people contact, as well as border trade. So connectivity and bilateral exchange has been the focus area, and stage 1 of normalization of ties has been done between India and China. Talking about stage 2 and stage 3, economic convergence and cooperation. May recently, when the foreign minister of China had visited India, he has promised that China is ready to supply fertilizer, rare earth, and tunnel machines to India. So these were three important areas that China has agreed to sell off, to give their products to India, to sell off their products to India. ठीक है. So far China has tried to control the exports of these things so that it can manipulate the prices of these products in the international market, and that brings us to the first cautious step, whether normalization of ties between India and China is possible or not, because so far China has tried to restrict the exports. Talking about economic convergence, we also have one of the issues, that's the Brahmaputra Dam debate. And Brahmaputra Dam debate, which was proposed as a consequence of Galwan Valley itself, has now begun construction. Given this fact that India, when the foreign minister of China was visiting India, our foreign minister, Mr. S. Jayanagara, had clarified this fact that this is a very, very earthquake prone zone, and China must be very cautious in carrying out construction in this area. So China has stated that they will be definitely considering humanitarian issues while construction of this dam. So that brings us to the mixed form of positives as well as negatives, the hope as well as resentment, that whether the normalization of ties with China is possible or not. Moving on to the stage 3, that is growing peace and tranquility at the border. So, given the fact that there is no significant skirmish between India and China post the Galwan clashes, that is a hope, that is a ray of hope that normalization of ties is possible. But given this fact that we are as of now adopting a piecemeal sector by sector approach, trying to resolve the issues one by one only with respect to border, so this also gives us this some kind of hope that the normalization of ties is possible. But then there is a sense of dent, also a sense of skepticism also amongst India, whether China will is genuinely trying to normalize the ties, and that brings us to the point that Xinjiang and Tibetan rail network that China tries to connect Xinjiang province with the Tibetan region very close to the LAC area, that gives us that skepticism whether China actually is willing to normalize ties with India or not. Finally comes the stage 4 of normalization of ties, that is strategic and geopolitical convergence. And this gives us more of skepticism rather than the positives of normalization of ties. Now, what is the positives? One is the age of Trump, and as we discussed, the tariff structure introduced by Trump to the countries worldwide brings these two Asian rivals very close to each other. And of course, the Chinese reluctance to invest in CPEC too, as we have previously discussed in one of our former videos, that China has been very reluctant to spend in CPEC phase 2 in Pakistan, stating that Pakistan may enough corruption has taken place that China doesn't trust to carry out investment in Pakistan. These are the two important hopes of geopolitical or strategic convergence. But China Pakistan Bangladesh relations, or China Pakistan Afghanistan relations for extending the CPEC, or even India refraining from one China policy. As when the Chinese foreign minister had visited India, India also clarified that despite of you removing the export restrictions and continue to sell off your rare earth minerals or fertilizer, India clarifies this fact that we, just like any other country in the world, we have started recognizing Taiwan. And in fact, India has stopped reinstating one China policy since 2008. So that is one of the skepticism, that India and China are not natural partners, and it would be very, very difficult to normalize ties between India and China until and unless the former issue is resolved. One of the fundamental foundational issue is resolved, and that is the border clashes. So with that, we come to the end of this topic. If you have any doubt, please do let us know in the comment section below. Thank you so much and all the very best.